Are you ready to sweep away any financial stress or clutter? Start the spring season feeling inspired and empowered to reach your goals? Well, spring cleaning your finances may be just what you need. It can be a powerful way to take control of your financial situation. By decluttering your budget, reviewing your expenses, making a plan for your money, you can clear out any financial cobwebs and start fresh with renewed energy and focus. And spring is the perfect time for a fresh start. So today we're going to be covering account cleanup, tax planning, debt decluttering, and organizing your financial documents. And of course, we're going to include some tools and apps that can really simplify your financial life. A little bit of financial spring cleaning can really go a long way. I'm Leah Hadley. I'm the founder of Great Lakes Investment Management and Great Lakes Divorce Financial Solutions, and I'm excited to be here with you to help you get organized and feel in control of your money. I help women who have spent most of their lives putting everybody else first to make the most of their money by providing compassionate financial guidance and strategic investment management. So let's talk about what it means to spring clean your finances. Now, depending on your financial situation, there may be lots of areas that would be worthwhile looking at. Now, we've narrowed it down to a few that we often find with lots of our clients where they could use some assistance. And the first one is account cleanup. Now, when I'm working with folks and we're looking at the accounts that they hold, typically, we want every account to have a purpose. So what do I mean by that? It's common when somebody switches jobs. A lot of times they will end up with a 401k at different employers. Maybe they roll it into an IRA and they have an IRA here and a 401k there. Sometimes, depending on the nature of where somebody works, they might open a savings account at one particular financial institution, then not necessarily use it as much anymore, right? And so for a variety of different reasons, people end up with accounts in various places. Sometimes in banks they still use, sometimes in banks they don't use. Sometimes they're paying attention to certain investment accounts, and sometimes it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, right? But really looking at your overall account structure and seeing what's working well for you. In some cases, when we're reviewing accounts, especially savings accounts for folks right now, we're finding that maybe they're not earning a decent savings rate on their account, and it makes sense to make a shift, right? And looking at what accounts you're utilizing. So there may be a variety of opportunities to consolidate things. At the end of the day, you really want to be able to clearly see how you are progressing towards your goals. So for example, if you have a large savings goal, sometimes it's helpful to have an account that is dedicated to that goal so you can clearly see the progress that you're making and you're not tempted to withdraw funds because you know that that's going to take away from that progress, right? And so just depending on the overall nature of your financial situation and what you're trying to accomplish, that's the lens in which you want to be looking at. What accounts do I need? Are these accounts really serving me? Or should I make some adjustments? Should I consolidate some things so I have a clear picture of where my investments are? Or do I need to maybe open up another account or two so I can really track progress toward a particular goal? But look at your overall account setup. Another important thing to look at when you're cleaning up accounts is beneficiaries on accounts. So if you haven't reviewed your beneficiaries for a while, especially if you've had a big life change, this is a great time to sit down and see who you have listed as your beneficiaries, but then also making sure that their contact information is up to date. So if you have beneficiaries and they're the right people, you still want to make sure they haven't got married, their name changed, or maybe they moved. Making sure their contact information is up to date as well is a really important part of that. The next thing I want to talk about is tax planning. And many of you may be thinking, well, I just got done with my taxes. Why are we talking about tax planning now? But this is actually the ideal time to be thinking about tax planning for the current year. So not the year where maybe you just filed your taxes, but when you file your taxes, that's a great time to look at your tax return and see, are there things that I didn't take advantage of that I could have taken advantage of that I want to take advantage of for the coming year, right? The other thing is, did you have a hard time organizationally collecting your information to provide to your accountant to get your taxes done? If you didn't keep track of things well, didn't necessarily have a great system to keep things organized, this is a really good time to implement something. So that way you have that in place and keep track of the things you need to keep track of during the year. And it's easy to provide that information to your accountant in the coming year. So it's a great time to review your full tax return and see, are there other opportunities that I want to start taking advantage of going forward, but also keeping track of your documents, making sure you have a system in place. And for some people, that means digitally. For some people, that means physically. For most people, that means a combination of both, some kind of a combination. The third topic I want to talk about is decluttering debt. Now, it's very common for people to take out like 0% loans on a furniture purchase, maybe where there's like a 0% interest, or maybe there's some promotional retail card where people want to take advantage of a special promotion. But when you're opening up all these different lines of credit, it can get a little bit confusing and a little cluttered in terms of making sure that your debt is serving you well. And if you're trying to eliminate that debt, that you have a clear plan to get out of debt in a reasonable amount of time. The other thing about it is, for some of these special promotional things, they often have a deferred interest. And so if you're not keeping up with the payments to get that paid off within the time frame in which you have that promotional rate, then sometimes there's a significant interest charge added at the end there, after that promotional time period. And so really getting clear on what are your debts. Write them out. You know exactly where each of your debts are in terms of the balance, what the minimum payment is, what the interest rate is. If you have a promotional period, getting clear on what is that promotional period, so that way you can make sure to eliminate the debt before that period of time is up. But also looking at if maybe you have some high interest rate debts that it makes sense to either consolidate or refinance at a lower interest rate. That might be a possibility. The first step, again, is just getting clear in terms of where you're at. And then, of course, if you are on a debt elimination journey, to make sure you're celebrating every single small success that you have. It can feel like a long journey. So really keeping yourself motivated and recognizing the effort that you're putting into that is so important. Even as you're going through and getting clear on exactly where things stand, make sure you're celebrating the fact that you're taking the time to do that, because that's really important. Getting your financial documents organized. And I have a great checklist. Actually, feel free to reach out to me if you would like a copy of this particular checklist. It's all about what documents do you actually have to keep and for how long. So it's a great resource. You can just send me a private message if you want it, and I'm happy to send it along to you. In general, you want to have a simple system that's very easy to maintain in terms of collecting your financial documents. So I said earlier how for most people, they do need both a physical storage and a digital storage. But the other thing that's really important to know is there's a lot of this stuff that you don't have to keep for that long that you can get rid of. And so it's good to have a shredder just on hand to be able to go ahead and shred any private information, so that way you don't have to worry about security in terms of that. Now, it's also helpful to have a scanner. So if you do have physical financial documents that you can scan in and retain digitally, that can be really helpful in helping you to stay organized. A lot of times people find it's much more easy to find things that people store online than, storing in a physical storage. But that's really about what's going to work best for you and establishing a habit that's going to be easy to maintain. So if you are a person who primarily uses online storage, then that probably makes sense to lean into that. If you are a person who really likes physical paper and has a clear organizational system with physical paper, it might make more sense to just focus on that. And last but not least, I wanted to talk a little bit about tools and apps that are available to help you stay organized and clear on your financial situation. And I literally just got off a coaching call that I was leading where we were talking about where it can just feel very overwhelming, especially when you're going through a big life change, to keep track of exactly what are the account balances, where are my expenses, exactly on the timing of income and things like that, right? And so there's tons of budgeting tools that are tremendously useful for people. I don't necessarily promote any one over another, as I think it's really important that you find a system that's going to work well for you. I do find that You Need a Budget is a popular tool for some people. It's one of those things where it seems like either people love it or they hate it. That it's YNAB for short, is YNAB is kind of what it's known as usually. There can be a little bit of a steep learning curve for people who are starting to use that app, but those who use it regularly seem to really like it and find a lot of value out of it. Mint.com is a common one that's used. I think there may be a free version as well as a paid version of that. I have several clients who like Tiller HQ, which is a spreadsheet, but it still syncs with your financial institutions. So again, it's about finding a system that works for you. For some people, these apps might be tremendously beneficial. And for some people, they just may feel overwhelming and one more thing that you have to learn. And that might not be the best tool for you. For some people, just literally writing out their budget on a piece of paper each month and seeing where they are relative to that budget works well. And if that works well for you, I want to encourage you to do what works for you, okay? We have lots of sample worksheets and things like that. If that's something that you're looking for, don't hesitate to reach out, okay? So that's kind of a wrap on our spring cleaning financial session. Things that I talked about today include cleaning up and consolidating your accounts, tax planning, decluttering your debt, organizing your financial documents, and some tools and applications that can make financial organization and management just a little bit easier. But remember that achieving financial success does take time and dedication. So these are tips that can help you to get more organized for a prosperous future, but you can always reach out if you have questions.